What's up, Sports Nation, March Madness, my March Madness fans, my college basketball fans. So let's get into the Women's Elite Eight here. The Women's Elite Eight is now set for tomorrow and Monday. I think we got 8 great teams in there. Some familiar team names, some new team names that haven't been in there a while. So, yeah. And the order I read these will be the two, like the first two I read they will play each other, next two will play each other, next two will play each other. So give me just a minute here, guys. All right, guys. So your Elite Eight for the women are as follows. We got Duke and South Carolina going up against one another. Then we got UCLA and LSU, or your next two to make that 4, going up against each other. And then you got the team I'm rooting for to win the national championship. You got UConn versus USC. And then you got TCU and Texas. Pretty good Elite Eight for the women. Top tier. Really not a lot of upsets this year in men's or women's, but, you know, you got all 4 number 1 seeds for the women there. Couple 2 seeds. I mean, if you look at it, you got what? UCLA who's a 1 seed. UCLA who's a 1 seed. Texas is a 1 seed. South Carolina's a 1 seed. And USC is a 1 seed. So you got them 4 1 seeds. And then you got Duke who's a 2 seed. TCU's who's a 2 seed. UConn's a 2 seed. And you got LSU who's a 3 seed. So pretty good matchups there if you don't say so myself. I'm just going to go on the record and say here's what I think for the Elite Eight in this next round. Obviously, Duke and South Carolina, I'd like to say that. First, let me say congratulations to Duke women, the Duke women's team. As a fan of the Duke men's basketball team, pretty cool that both Duke men and women made the Elite Eight. Now let's see if the Duke women can pull off the biggest upset of the tournament and beat the overwhelmingly favorite to win it all. One of the favorites to win it all in South Carolina. Sorry, guys. Kind of late here. It's 2 in the morning, so see if Duke can pull off that upset over South Carolina and join their men in the Final Four, which I will talk about tomorrow when I do the men's Final Four. When I give my record for what I did in the Elite Eight to get in the Final Four. So I'll talk about them tomorrow. But congratulations also, by the way, big congrats to my Duke men's team for advancing to the Final Four tonight. We're still dancing, Dukies. Let's go. But anyways, back to the women's, guys. We'll see if Duke can join the Duke men in the Final Four. I highly doubt. I think South Carolina. I think this will be a good game, but I think South Carolina wins it. And then in the other matchup, we got UCLA and LSU. UCLA, from what I can see and what I've been following this year for women, I don't really follow other than watching UConn and Tennessee because them are the teams I support. I'll tell you why in a minute. UCLA, from what I've read and seen, are the overwhelming favorites to win the national title this year for the women. So I think this will be a good game, just like the Duke South Carolina game. But I think in the end, UCLA proves to be too much for LSU. And then Texas and TCU. I mean, TCU is good, but I think this might be the only game that ends up not being close. I think Texas gets the dub here by double digits. Hope I'm wrong, but I'd like to see TCU upset Texas just because I host my tournament bracket a little bit if they lose. That just takes one more person out of the running. And then last but not least, UConn and number 1 USC. Now, this I think should be a really great matchup. It just sucks we're not going to get to see Juju Watkins versus Paige Beckner's in this one. And money bracket I'm in for a women's pool that I'm in for my local newspaper. I'm sitting currently in first place, and if UConn is to win out and win the championship, I will take first. So yeah, obviously going to go with UConn here. I'd go with them anyway because I'm a huge Paige fan. And no, to any of you thinking because she's a girl and she's good looking, I think she's incredibly talented and athletic, and she's a great basketball player. Her and Caitlin, I would love to see them on the two, both on the same team in college and in the WNBA. I think that would have been an unstoppable force. But I will even say when Paige goes next year to WNBA, or this year, excuse me, when they get started here in a couple of months, Paige is definitely winning Rookie of the Year this year for WNBA. There's going to be no question in my mind. The reason I am a big supporter of UConn and Texas, guys, the reason I am a big supporter of UConn and Tennessee, and the reason I support Duke's women is because I'm a fan of their men's. I'm a big fan of their men's basketball team. Obviously, that's why I support Duke's women. Always rooting for them to do well, but I'm not. They're not one of my favorites. But UConn and Tennessee are my two favorites, and the reason why is because back in the day I was a huge fan of Sue Bird, huge fan of Breanna Stewart, huge fan of Diana Taurasi. Huge fan of Rebecca Lobo, just to name a few, and now a big fan of obviously Paige. For Tennessee, obviously, Candace Parker is one of my all-time favorite women's basketball players, and she's from Tennessee. That's why I support Tennessee. I also was a big fan of Tamika Holslaw, if you remember her. So yeah, and Tamika Catchings. So that's why I support them. Are the reasons why I support UConn and Tennessee. Now Tennessee got beat tonight. Also, my favorite college coach for basketball is always Coach K. Always going to be Coach K. But I was also a huge fan of Pat Summitt. Rest in peace, Pat Summitt. She was an amazing coach and did an amazing job. So yeah, there you have. There's your Elite Eight, guys. What I think is going to happen, obviously, I think UConn to the Final Four, South Carolina to the Final Four, UCLA to the Final Four, and I'm going to go with Texas. That's my Final Four, guys. Texas, UCLA, UConn, and so I'm going to go with UCLA and UConn, Texas, and so UCLA, UConn, Texas, and South Carolina are my Final Four picks. So there you go. I hope y'all have a nice night. I'll be back tomorrow to talk about the men's Final Four because we got 2 more games. Half of that was set tonight, but we'll talk about that tomorrow night. So enjoy the rest of the games for the men tomorrow and the women tomorrow and the women on Monday. Y'all have a nice night. I'll see you tomorrow.